offices in other
Sure, yeah.
locations?
So the history of Seymours is 21 years old as a company.
Right.
Started in Ripley, right on the junction of the A3 and M25, junction 10, so it's in that corridor, and spreads itself out across 12 offices, 14 if you count lettings branches as well.
Okay.
Residential sales are 12. Cranleigh's the furthest we come down, south. All of our offices are in that corridor of the A3, M25. Right. Cranleigh's the most recent office. It won't be the last office. There are other two new areas being earmarked at the moment for further expansion. We won't go any further south from Cranleigh because our make-up buyers are the A3 and M25 commuter. We look for the buyers a lot across Putney, Barnes, Wimbledon that are coming outwards but also need to access back in.
Yes.
So Cranleigh doesn't have a station, but what it does have is 60 minutes commute or thereabouts back up into town.
Yes.
It gives good value for money.
Okay.
So if I took a house here, I don't know, let's say an average 3-bedroom entry-level detached house, under 400, let's call it £400,000. If I took that, put it up into Ripley, that's probably 650 grand. So the commute time plus saving £200,000 on your price brings us buyers in that graphic. None of our agents that we compete against have that uniqueness. They're all good in their own fields, but they don't have that access to those buyers that we have. So we identified that and opened up in Cranleigh.
Okay. What is it about Cranleigh then that attracts the Seymour buyer? What would you say about the?
I think it's value for money. I think it's the village itself, reputed to be the largest.
Yes.
I think in the country, although whether that's true or not, it's a big spread of an area, and it has a nice feel. So good access to countryside, equidistance to Gatwick, to Heathrow, South Coast, London, and the value for money in property terms, even though it is expensive, but it is Surrey, but in that form, it's still well priced.
So
good
great value for money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's an area I think as well that will grow in value. You'll see it over the next few years start to go somewhere. There's lots of land developments taking place or in the pipeline. So Cranleigh will grow in its size, definitely. But the infrastructure can take it. You know, there's several supermarkets in the high street, good leisure centre, good schools, private and state schools that can take that infrastructure. So it'll become a very, very bright place to live and more cosmopolitan probably than you see it now.
Interesting. So over what time frame do you think?
10 years.
That'll have 10 years.
Yeah.
You're not from Cranleigh, or are you?
No, I'm Sussex. I'm just
Sussex,
over the border
in
Sussex, but my wife's Cranleigh.
Right. Okay.
And all her family are this side, so it's quite close to home. Whereas I would drive 40, 50 minutes to get to my office up in Ripley, the first office that we had. Which is great for 10, 12 odd years, but now being that close. Yeah. And the kids go to school in Rudgwick and things, so I can drop off, spend time with them, dad time with them, and then come to work as well. Yeah.
You very clearly articulate your proposition, you know, those people who are coming out of the kind of southwest of London in that M25 A3 corridor. Yeah. How do you market to those people? I understand you've got some innovative approaches to
our marketing is our business is a cottage industry, is what we've always said. So we have a radiation from our core. So this office here will have an effective area of a sort of 5-mile radius. And it then will abut the next office. So we have kind of divides between our offices from there. And we've always said that old-fashioned estate agency is good agency. Relying on technology is not the be-all and end-all, although technology is also a big thing for us. We acknowledge that technology in the way that our changing business is unravelling. So we invest and spend an awful lot of time in the social media part. So YouTube, we run property films. Right. And we are, certainly nobody around here runs those same films. In fact, there aren't many in the UK that run them. There are new technologies, so websites like Rightmove don't really cater for them that well. Yet if you go to Canada or New Zealand, parts of America, I guess, in many respects, they really are big on these property films. So the paperless aspect of sales particularly is moving away, and perhaps this more modern approach is coming in. But we like to talk to people. So we say, for every 100 buyers we have listed in our database of buyers, probably 5% of them, 5 of those buyers are proper buyers. There's somebody who will view a house, make an offer on a house, have their finance in place, and can do what they want to do there and then. But it changes all the time. So to find those 5 out of that 100, you've got to keep talking. One goes and buys, it's replaced by another one. It's a little cycle that goes on. So we have to work really, really, really hard on keeping our phone bills as high as they can, because we know that when we're talking to those people, it's an important part of that business. Equally, with that said, we're producing a new website today. We try to change our website every sort of 18 months, 2 years, because technology moves forward.
Yes.
The build we've got coming out, which is always delayed, it was due to come out in January. Here we are in March, and we've still not got it ready yet. It's a build that you would associate Foxtons to have. It's a very expensive build, and the technology behind it, I don't even understand. I have no idea. But it's about the engine, I'm told. We can make the makeup and make it look pretty, but the mechanism behind it that make the things really swift and fast and get you into Google searches really quickly.
Yes.
The content that goes on there, that's the part that costs the money. And it is, if I told you the figures, you'd be amazed at the money that we spend on it.
Right.
Yeah, incredible. So those buyers are appalled to us because they search that area. But often we also say with somewhere like Cranleigh, if you went to Rightmove perhaps and a buyer did a search for a radius, they probably won't know where Cranleigh exists. So it's up to us to identify that buyer. So the buyer's a central source, their database in a pooled area, and we have to, as an office here, identify those buyers that will move to Cranleigh, that don't know what Cranleigh is, and we need to explain to them on the attributes that it has. Yeah.
Right, so Cranleigh is not well known by those buyers from the south west of London because it doesn't have a railway station, because
it's too small, it's too far away, they just don't think about it.
Right, okay.
So if you took Ewhurst, perhaps you took Forest Green,
yes.
a tiny little area, there's no way that they would absolutely know that.
No, okay.
So if they want access to the A3 and the M25 to get back up to work by car, they're invariably not thinking about areas like this because they assume that they are too far.
So they would think, what, about Guildford and places like that?
Town centres are often big pools where they'll go to first.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're a buyer and you've come from Wimbledon, perhaps you've gone to Woking, perhaps you've gone into Guildford, and you don't know where you are or those areas are. So the smaller offices, satellite offices that sit around those main towns, it's their job to introduce that area to.
Right, okay. And I can empathise with that because we didn't know Cranleigh, we accidentally drove through it.
Yeah.
And that was, this was the place we were going to live.
A story we hear all the time.
Yeah.
So there are particular roads around Cranleigh, on the edges of the Cranleigh, a terrace of Victorian semi-detached houses, and they have that London-esque feel to them.
Yes.
And you could almost walk the road, talk to every neighbour, and 50% of those people would have come from a northern part, from partly Barnes, Wimbledon, somewhere around those kind of areas, and they've come back down to them. It's quite amazing to see it. It's a gut feel that we had would happen, and then 2 years on, after we've opened, the realisation, no, we were right, it's quite satisfying.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Yeah.
Your firm is an award-winning firm from a marketing point of view. So what was it that convinced the judges to give you that?
The films are the dominant force in what we do. I think we won Best Estate Agency the last 2 years in a row, which is an overall. It's also it's a medium size. There are other awards for an independent single office, and then a big corporate type of thing. But with our 12, 14 offices, we're classed as a medium size.
Okay.
So this year, or the last year just gone, we won for the Best Marketing Awards, and that's our newspaper advertising, our website builds, and certainly the films. I think the films were the big break because nobody does them, and I think they're unique.
Right.
Others say they're a gimmick, and we say, well, yes, they may be a gimmick, but if it's a gimmick that markets a house and gets a good price for it and sells it well,
I think
it's one that works. Absolutely right. Yeah. And again, if I go back to a film doesn't work for every property. An average normal house, there's no need for one particularly. Something that's unusual, as an example, at the back of Cranleigh High Street is a chapel, the old chapel.
Yes.
Had been on the market for an agent for 12 months. Vaulted ceiling, spiral staircase, fantastic. But put it into a photograph, and it's a difficult thing to portray. We put it into the market, put a film on it, and sold it within 2 weeks.
Right.
Because the film just transforms it. So, again, not to say that agent did anything wrong in that time, it was just the way the presentation was put together.
So the presentation that was put together before you filmed it, would you have said that was the kind of conventional approach to it, and as you said,
and in fact, the conventional approach didn't work for it. So taking something as a different approach that was new so people could see it, they could almost stand in front of that house and be inside it and could feel the depth of it. The warmth of it, understand it a lot better, attracted more people to it. So we used a YouTube and a Facebook account, particularly on that one, with that film. And we pushed it through to the vendors because obviously that it breeds people that breed people, and the hit rates on those were massive as a result of that. Although the buyer does say to me that half of those hits were probably her because she spent most of the time showing her friends.
Well, quite naturally so, I imagine. You want to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Family, locally, just across the border.
Well, that's right. Yeah, the Sussex side. I've got 3 kids. My eldest is 11.
Right.
I have, which is a son. I have 2 girls as well, which are, I always get this confused, which is 9 and 7.
Right.
They killed me for that. When I don't know their birthdays. Yeah. My wife works at British Airways, has done forever.
Right.
Does part-time, an awful lot of part-time, and the kids are becoming more independent. They're very sport activated, if that makes sense. I drop them off in the morning up and come up to here. It works really, really well.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And of course, there's activities at school I can just pop straight down. And we try to help the school here as well. We'll promote them. We've got a little banner on for an open morning for the local school. For
yes.
them.
Yes. So the property market is it's been through its ups and downs clearly.
Does it
at the moment,
have ups and downs?
Indeed. Where is it now? Where are you at in
the property
overall
market
scheme of things? Yeah.
Okay. I think. I guess 2007 is when the trouble started. Northern Rock in the summer had its issues. 2008, it really then had a problem. It dropped through our own fear of not knowing where the economy was. It fell apart. 2009, it came back pretty much to where it had been in 2007. But the buyers were few and far between. Financing was difficult to get hold of. Today, we have a transformation in that market, and really quite quickly, the media have been positive to not just the housing market, but the economy in general. And as a result of that, people want to get back into property. I think an awful lot of people sold their houses in a time that they were unsure or uncertain of what was going to happen, moved into rented accommodation. So we have a glut of buyers that are in rented accommodation now desperately trying to find to get back into the housing market. Busy parts, so Guildford town centre and Woking town centre and up into London are hectic. It's a war field, a battlefield with buyers trying to find very few properties available to sell. Less so in the villages, they're more sedate in the villages and more of a nicer place to find a house perhaps, but even now we will complain that there's not enough to sell.
In London you hear these stories saying you have queues of people.
There are queues of people, and they're not stories, they're absolutely facts, absolutely, yeah. So examples of that are, I've got 2 vendors here moving back up that had come from, one from Rains Park and one further up into Wimbledon, and they've come down here, lived, brought up their children, and now heading back up again.
Right.
Kids have gone off to uni and what have you, and they want that more, a different lifestyle. And they can't find it. They're looking at things and they're being beaten by 7, 8 other buyers that are all offering at the same time. The prices get pushed up as a result. They can't afford them. They give up. It's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy situation. Mm. We do get some of that here to an extent, but not to that greatness. It's less of an extent. It's a calmer position.
Calmer, because it's countryside.
Yeah, absolutely right. But when you it is a housing issue, and you're seeing development going on. We haven't developed enough to hit demand.
Right.
There is so much demand out there and so little supply, and of course house prices get driven upwards as a result of that, and that's not good for anybody at all.
You obviously love doing what you do. It comes across just talking to you. So how long have you been an agent for?
What dare I say? 22 years, I think, is about right. Yeah.
Do you see yourself doing anything else? We
I
all have this question, don't we?
I question
what would you have done if you were?
When you do things for that long, you want to go and do something else, because why shouldn't you? It's human nature to go and find something else. But I wouldn't know what else to do. And you're absolutely right. There are days where the job can be tiresome because you're dealing with emotions, immense emotions, and some of them, different cases in one day compacted into a 12-hour period, can really drive you mad. But it's overweighed, easily overweighed by the pleasure that you get at the other end. You don't often notice that's happening. Yeah. Somebody buys a house and you forget that big step for someone, especially a first-time buyer in the marketplace. It's a really big step. And even perhaps it's a £2 million house, and it's still a big step for those people as well. And the joy they have on the other side of that. So, lots of pressure and emotions that roll up to it. But ultimately, the end game, when everybody's happy, it's a fantastic place to be. And you roll through day by day and forget that scenario, I get. Could I do something else? I wouldn't know what to do. I really wouldn't have.
Not surfing for a little
I wouldn't be any good. I'm getting too old for that sort of stuff. The young guys are a lot better. It's good fun, but I've always wanted to do things with my hands and make things and create things, but I'm not too good at that either. So maybe I'll dabble with something.
Stick with the
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.